I wish to begin by expressing Israel's sorrow over the tragic incident which claimed the lives of the World Central Kitchen employees in Gaza. We express our deepest condolences, and our hearts go out to the families, their countries, and the World Central Kitchen. This was a tragic mistake. Israel never targets civilians deliberately, never, let alone aid workers carrying out crucial work. Israel holds the critical support of aid workers in the highest regard, and we will continue to coordinate with them and secure them in their missions. This incident has been thoroughly investigated, and the findings show that this strike was carried out due to a misidentification at night during a war under very complex conditions. The incident was investigated by an independent expert body and was completed last night. The findings were presented both to Israeli leadership and WCK officials before being released to the public. As a result, 2 senior military officers have already been dismissed from their posts. Israel has coordinated aid distribution with international organizations thousands of times, I repeat, thousands of times since the start of this war. And there is no question that this event was not deliberate. The military's standard of operating procedure was violated, but it was the result of a tragic mistake made due to Hamas's cynical modus operandi to exploit civilian infrastructure and vehicles. Israel will learn from this investigation and take every effort to ensure that such a tragedy is not repeated. Council members, Israel is in the midst of a defensive war fought in unprecedented conditions against an enemy that fights from underground tunnels and hospitals and deliberately uses civilians as human shields. We did not start this war, and we did not want this war. We were attacked, massacred by ruthless terrorists that are committed to repeat the massacre. Hamas chose to fight from within civilian population centers in Gaza, and as heart-wrenching as it is, tragic mistakes can happen. Every country that fought a war in dense urban conditions understands this. Due to the complexity of the battlefield in Gaza, tragedies that took the lives of our own people have occurred. IDF soldiers, our soldiers, have fallen from friendly fire, and Israeli hostages, our hostages, have been mistakenly killed by our soldiers. These are all tragedies, but the reality is that the loss of innocent lives during a war is sometimes unavoidable, despite all the efforts that Israel goes above and beyond to take. This is why the world must not forget for one moment why this war began. Israel abides strictly by the laws of war, and the Israel Defense Forces have implemented more precautions to mitigate civilian harm than any other military in history. Millions of Israelis face constant Palestinian terror attacks, but sadly, this is a fact that the UN chooses to neglect. After all, Israeli suffering means almost nothing between these walls. In each council meeting, a flawed picture is painted. You focus on Israel, making demands and issuing condemnations against Israel, while ignoring the terrorists that planned and initiated this war, and what should be done to thwart their genocidal schemes. This is also the responsibility of this council, the lives of Israelis, not only the lives of Palestinians, the future of Israelis. The Palestinian representative here does not represent Hamas and has no influence over them. He speaks only in the name of the Palestinian Authority that pays terrorists and up until this day never condemned the massacre. And the Palestinian Authority, as you know, has no presence in Gaza. So, dear colleagues, what does the Council have to say about the murderous Hamas terrorists, about the continuous rocket fire on Israel, about the exploitation of civilian sites for terror, like hospitals, about the looting of humanitarian aid, about women, Israeli women that are being raped right now in captivity and children being tortured? What steps are you taking against Hamas? Just because a representative of Hamas is not sitting in this room, does that mean that you can ignore their atrocities and exploitation of Gazans as human shields? These discussions, sadly, are completely detached from reality, even though the truth is so clear. When will the UN finally hold Hamas accountable? The time has come to stop defending terrorists. Thank you, Madam President.